Welcome, traders, to Blueprint here at TradersPost for June 18th, 2026. I'm your host, Tom Hartman, your friendly neighborhood vibe coder and bind script wizard, here to talk about a new indicator that I want to introduce you guys to. It's one we created here from Linda Raschke using some of the candlestick patterns that she's popularized over the years and just delivered it to you guys. If you haven't heard about her before, you're about to, and if you have beforehand, you probably just scratch your head and wonder, why aren't there more indicators based on what she's been teaching? So we'll take a look at that today. This episode today is brought to you by Blue Sky, the best-in-class prop firm that offers same-day activation, daily payouts, and no max restrictions. But we'll tell you more about that later. For now, let's get started. All right, here, folks. All right, before we jump into the whole Linda Raschke thing here, I just want to let you guys know a little bit of who she is. Let me pull up my screen. So it's worth mentioning that Linda Raschke's name comes from, it comes up so often in the short-term trading world. Linda Bradford Raschke is one of the better known professional futures and equities traders over the last several decades. She began her professional career trading in 1981 as an options market maker on the Pacific Coast Stock Exchange and the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. Later became a registered commodity trading advisor and built a long career around short-term price action, futures, swing trading, and market structure. A lot of the traders know her from Jack Schreiger's The New Market Wizards. Great book. If you haven't read that, you should definitely pick that up. Market Wizards, Unknown Market Wizards, all these series are fantastic. But she's in The New Market Wizards, where she was profiled among elite traders, and from Street Smarts, the trading book she co-authored with Lawrence Connors. That book helped popularize a number of short-term trade setups, including false breakout reversals, pullback trades, gap reversals, volatility contractions, and other repeatable price action patterns. So when people say a pattern is a Linda Raschke pattern, it does not always mean that she invented every candle formation like from scratch. In many cases, it means that either she formalized it, named it, taught it, traded it publicly, or helped popularize it through her books, seminars, LBR trading material, and so on. Her contribution was taken. Contribution was taken raw price action and turned it into practical rules-based setups that short-term traders could study and apply. So that's the lens we'll be using here. We're not just here for just naming random candlestick patterns. These are patterns associated with Raschke, her approach to reading short-term price exhaustion, failed breakouts, compression, expansion, reversals, and all that in the markets. Before we get started, I just want to thank I'm the cloth here for showing up. You guys are late. Trey, no, I was here. Yeah, I had some technical difficulties with my mic. I actually want to make sure that it's working nicely here. So let me just double check that. I'm just assuming you guys can hear me as I prattle on. Yeah, it sounds fine. All right. Before we jump into it, let's just get a quick word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Blue Sky. If you're looking for a prop firm built for real traders and that's automation friendly, meet Blue Sky. And when you pair it with TradersPost, it just clicks. Blue Sky is a best-in-class prop firm with same-day activation, daily payouts, and no max restrictions. They also offer launch plans starting at $59. And if you're a first-time subscriber, use coupon code TradersPost50 to get 50% off your launch plan. Get funded with Blue Sky, execute with TradersPost. Sign up today at bluesky.pro. That's BLUSKY.pro and plug in your edge. Trading involves risk. Use proper risk management.
All right, let's take a look at this. This is an indicator that will be showing up later on, if not tomorrow, next week, inside of our library over in your TradersPost dashboard. It'll show up over here. But also, after I publish it online, I'll post a link as a pinned comment to this video, so you guys can go and download the code for it and use it to your heart's content. So we're going to go over, these are basically my top 8, 9 favorite patterns from Linda Raschke. She has other ones that are useful as well, but they deal with multi-time frame stuff, swing stuff, news information, things that you don't necessarily get in TradingView or require multiple different time frames to take a look at. Just to give you guys a little backstory, the reason I'm interested in this is that as we've been doing more of the price action live trading, I've been finding that there are certain patterns that are happening, especially intraday, that when I look back at my trades and I go, oh, if I had known the pattern was there, I might not have reacted in the same way. I know often trading has been compared to being an athlete, a professional athlete, and so I want to build up that muscle memory to see these patterns. And I recognize this in the chess world, right? You have different tactics that you want to look out for, different setups for the different pieces that you want to be prepared for, so that when you see this, you know what you expect to happen next. It's not a guarantee that your opponent will play that in a specific way, but you're not going to be surprised if they do, because you're seeing how it's set up. And candlestick patterns can be super useful for that, because the different candles are telling a story, and that story, what's behind that story, can sometimes be inferred. All right, so the first indicator, or the first candlestick pattern I want to show here comes from, it's called the turtle soup. And the idea here is that when you add this indicator to your chart, and you'll have this legend at the top right, and you could hover over in order to read what it says. So the description here for turtle soup is that the price pokes just past a recent high or low, like it's breaking out, then snaps right back through the level. Let's go ahead and switch this back from the volume bars. All right, so that's what's being marked on the chart over here. So the expectation here is that because the price is poking above the high or the low, the recent high or the low, and then retreating, that the breakout was a trap, and that a reversal is on the way. We see that play out over here. This is a classic example where here we had the price break a high. This is the high that's here. You're seeing the line show up here, and this would be an indication for a reversal, which actually ended up being pretty accurate. Over here we have another one too. The turtle soup broke the high, but didn't close above it, and then it reversed afterwards. And then sometimes it fails. You have patterns like this where the high is there, but it's actually, the breakout is actually correct. Ooh, this is a nice one. Came to the high and reversed the other side. I wonder if this would have helped me in any of my trades today. Let's just take a look at that real quick. No, I guess in the overnight, it would not have helped me there on the 50-minute chart. What about the 2-hour chart? I guess this would have been useful in the overnight on the 16th. All right. Okay, that's pretty cool. So that's the turtle soup candlestick pattern. The next one here is the same thing, turtle soup plus 1. So it's the same false breakout, but the snapback comes 1 bar later. So the fake breakout 1 bar later, and the reversal closes on the next. So here we have, let's just turn that on. Turtle soup plus 1. And we'll see here, let's hide the other one. What we're getting here is, there we go. Ooh, I wonder if we're setting up for a drop right now in markets. Interesting. All right. McCloth says he plays chess also. Nice to know. If you don't mind me asking, what's your FIDE or ELO level? I'm curious. I am right now, what is it? 1100, 1200 on 3-minute or 10-minute games. And well, I no longer play classical. I no longer play longer term games. But I wonder if I'd be good at that too. All right. So that's the turtle soup plus 1. I'm just looking here to see like where this might have helped me with reversals. Wow, this is pretty good. Pretty good, pretty good. All right, next one up is the 80-20. So the 80-20, what this does is that you have um, a strong one-way bar that opens near one end of its range and closes near the other end. So the body of the candle fills about 80% of the bar. The expectation here is that a fade setup. Look for a reversal the opposite way on the next bar. Tag above the bar equals watch for a move down. Below, watch for a move up. So let's see how accurate this is. All right, so here is the classic example. Move down and then it reverses. Here we had a move down and then a reversal a little bit later on. Move down, reversal. Okay, not too terrible. Here it fell through, but here it was useful as an indicator. Move up, move up. All right, I'm liking this. Now, would this have helped me today? Let's jump down to the 15-minute and see. Maybe indeed. The open, it certainly seemed useful. I wonder what Mike's going to think about these. I wonder what Mike's going to think about it. Klaus says he guess he's classical. All right, then you're a better man than me. You're more patient. I like the time games because I like to know that things are going to be over at a specific time. Plus, I love that time crunch. All right, interesting. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that we have the descriptions over here in the pattern, in the legend, but we don't have it here inside of the indicator settings. So I'm actually going to quickly pull up PineScript Agents here, which is our tool available inside of our TradersPost backend under indicators. You can get it even as a free user. And then you can go ahead and grab this. And when you do, and download this package and feed it to your AI, it will have more context, more rules to be able to create PineScript posts easier. So let me just go ahead and start this up. And what I want to be doing is I want to update this so that we have tool tips for the patterns on the right here that actually describe what's going on. So let me just go ahead, make sure my whisper is on. All right, so I'm going to say here, let's update the settings for the for this indicator so that the tooltip information that we have in the legend also appears as tooltips inside of the settings panel. All right, we're going to go ahead and do that. Let it work its magic while we continue on. The next pattern is inside bar. All right, a lot of us, we know this. This is very popular, inside bar. The idea here is that there's a bar, and afterwards there are the candles don't exceed the high and low of that initial bar. And so if you're still stuck in that range, the idea is that at some point there will be I guess what you might call a dramatic move one way or another. So it's just basically this consolidation range. So here, this is a classic example. This is the outside bar. So then we have the inside bar over here, and then all these other bars didn't close past the high or the low. This one did peak out a bit, but stayed in here. Did this close lower? I guess this did close lower, but this closed lower too. Let's see here if I can get an explanation as to why this is happening. So as I'm zooming in over here, I'm expecting to get the break of this pattern once the low and the high of the candle are broken. But we did get that over here. So let's see. First, let's go back to our PineScript. It's still going ahead and make the modifications, but we'll ask it this next question while we're waiting. All right. So I'm just going to point out here that this candle breaks and this candle breaks. This didn't break the range, but this did. All right. All right, I made the modifications for the tooltip. Let's just go ahead and ask this next question. Why did why did the first candle that broke above, where the high broke above the range, didn't stop this inside bar pattern, didn't confirm that it broke out, but the second time it did it did. Let's get that information. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and grab this code, head into the editor, into the panel here, and paste it to update. Mikey Davis says here, Trey, you'll have a lot of explaining to do to explain MLP to the new people. TP is straightforward. I mean, take profit or TradersPost. How about we not explain that? How about we just let the people who were there at the time of Price Action Live know what that's all about? All right. This updated, perfect. So now we have the tooltips that are showing up over here, so the same descriptions show up perfect. And now that I'm looking at this, I am also seeing we do have settings for how it looks, but I would rather have these parameters. Maybe I'll see what I want later on. I was thinking I want them grouped with their particular patterns, but I do like the pattern toggles to be here, and then the parameters are separate. So let's just leave that for now. All right, so we toggled on now failed inside break. So the idea for the failed inside break is that price breaks out of the recent inside bar, but can't hold it and closes back within the range. The expectation here is that the failed breakout often leads to a move in the opposite direction. So this is an example here. Let's actually find a good example, because this one here, we have the inside bar, we have the failed break, but then it actually continues. So let's see how often this pattern actually plays out. Over here, we have a break, and then the price does move in the opposite direction, but it peaks out and comes down. It doesn't actually fall out the bottom. So this is not looking pretty good here. Here we have failed breakouts to the top side, and the price ends up lower later on. So that's not so bad. Same thing over here, failed breakout to the top and then fall, failed breakout to the top and then fall. So it is working sometimes, but like over here, it doesn't. But then we also had the failed breakouts on both ends. So maybe that was legitimate. Let's see what our tool is saying. All right, great question. This is by design, and the key is close versus wick. Right now, the box ends only when a candle closes beyond the range. A wick poking out does not count. Here's what happened. First candle, top arrow, the high poked above the box, but it closed back inside. By the current rule, that's not a breakout, it's a failed breakout. You should see a FIB, which we do. Second candle, the bottom arrow, it closed beyond the box, below the bottom, a genuine breakout box ends. Did that really happen? Was that really the case? Because when I take a look at that, at that candle, that's not what happened. It didn't actually break below. I think you might have to reconsider this answer, because that second candle break, if you take a look at it, the close is not actually beyond the low of the bar that triggers the inside bar range. It just pokes out. So maybe we can do something there. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. We have the outside up down. So this is, I'll show it over here. So a bar that runs both higher and lower than the prior bar engulfs it, closing up or down. The expectation, a momentum sentiment shift in the closing direction. So the idea over here is that, actually, let's take a look at this before. It wasn't super reliable, but let's try again. Here we have this bar has the high that's above the high for the other one, and the low that's below the low of the other one, and it closed lower. So the idea is that we should move up after that. Is that what it is? Should we move the opposite direction? In the closing direction. Oh no, this was actually correct, because we went down after that. Here we have the high-low close, and we went down after that. Here we went up, so that didn't count. Let's go to a more volume-rich place. High-low closes down here, and we ultimately fell, but not very soon after. In fact, the next candle we went up. Here, it happened in the direction of the move, in the direction of the move, in the direction of the move, and so on. Okay, not terrible. We only really need to be about 60 to 70% right and have our wins bigger than our losses for some of these patterns to be worthwhile. And maybe a bunch of these can be volatility adjusted so we don't take every single pattern. All right, let's see what our AI says. All right, it's pushing back. Let's take a look at the next one. All right, so the next two are very popular ones. This is narrow range 4 and narrow range 7. Let's take a look at narrow range 4 first. So the idea here is that the narrow range is the tightest range bar of the last 4 bars. So the idea is that you're getting this volatility contraction because the bar that you're on right now of the last 4 bars is the smallest bar. And then you should have an explosion that happens afterwards. So let's see here. NR4 actually might be easier to see it as NR7 because I see NR4 as being super. We're getting these all over the place. So let's see here. So we have a 7 count for this bar, and the idea is that when it breaks out, you get a big move in one direction or the other. Here we have a narrow range 7 that breaks out. I don't like this sort of narrow range 7 where you have this basically a trend is already happening within the NR7. Let's see here. I'm not liking the way that this looks. So let's go ask AI about it. In the meantime, let's see if we get an answer for what we previously considered for the inside bar. Actually, while that's happening, let me just do a by the way and ask here. I'm going to paste my image. I'm seeing a lot of NR4 and NR7 ranges whenever I turn on the indicator. And it seemed to me that the narrow ranges should only really show within what I imagine is a relatively low volatility environment since we're waiting for a volatility expansion. So shouldn't the script not take high volatile ranges or trends into account? Or maybe am I misunderstanding this? Let me know what the consensus is for this sort of thing. I'm going to ask this question as a BTW so that it won't interfere with what we're doing. And all right, what did they say about the failed inside bar breakout? The box was already closed base. A pure wick can't end it. So that second candle didn't just wick; it closed below the bottom box, but only barely. Technically a breakout, practically just a poke. Fix, breakout buffer. The box now ends only when a candle closes beyond the edge by more than X percentage of the box height. Okay, I'll take that. Let me grab this code, paste it back in, and update that. All right, what does it have to say about the narrow range? You're not misunderstanding it. You're actually put your finger on a real limitation of the textbook definition. Why do you see so many narrow ranges? NR4 and NR7 are purely relative. NR7, this bar's range is the narrowest of the last 7 bars, and the same thing for the 4. So the script is behaving per the classical definition. The consensus, common refinements traders layer on top, prefer NR7 over NR4 because NR4 is noisy. We can do an inside day narrow range combo. Okay, get that. And the absolute volatility filter. Only flag NR when the bar's range is also small in absolute terms. Multi-bar contraction. Okay. Well, we're not going to modify that here, but that is a good consideration. Let me escape out of that. So we'll leave that there. And then finally, the 2 last ones, bar gap reversal. So the idea here, or I think they call it 3-day bar reversal. Do we have a setting for the number of bars? Okay, let's see here. Bar reversal says, a gap that stays unfilled for several bars, then price returns and fills it. The expectation is that price often reverses at the filled gap. Understood. Let's see if we can find it on the chart. Okay. Actually, you know what I would like to add to this script? Let's add some log.info calls for the events when these patterns fire. So basically, I want in the pine logs for the for when a candlestick pattern is enabled in the settings, that every time the event occurs, it shows up in the event log. That way, I can quickly get to it. All right, let's see if we can add that. I just want to basically be able to add pine logs to this. When patterns happen few and far between, it's nice to be able to have the logs because then you can jump to where that pattern is happening within the chart. All right, while that's being processed, let's take a look here. So here we had a gap that formed, and then later on, the price came back and filled it. So this is classic fair value gap, and then we fall down. Let's see if it happens elsewhere. Dun, 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 hunt for it. Let's look on a higher time frame. Let's try real-time hours. Maybe that'll change it. There we go. Now we got a bunch of gaps. Well, Mike looks at this all the time. So here the gap is filled and then it moves up. Here it cleared the gap. Here it came back to the gap. This doesn't seem like it's fulfilling. Oh, there we go. We have the gap and then bounce up. But this is a classic one. This is a classic move. Question here from Mikey Davis. Speaking of volatility contraction, are you familiar with Mark Minervini's volatility contraction pattern? No. Ooh, I got to go take a look at that. Mark Minervini. Mark Minervini. Vol contraction pattern. What is that? Interesting. I guess you're going to end up in our indicator library, Mark Minervini. All right. Tom, have you ever tried to make an indicator to catch perfect pivot points? Mikey asks. Yes, it's funny that you should ask that. I'm actually working on one of those right now for my own personal indicator library over at Sacred Profit. I think I found a way of doing it. It is a combination, amongst other things, of RSI divergences and my levels indicator that deals with historical VWAP levels. I find that it's super useful in order to find pivot points. Just to give an idea here, here's an idea. Where is it? What do I call it? It is called Polaris. So, for example, Polaris, if I add it to this chart, let's just go ahead and add it to, you know what, let's add it to MSTR. Let's see what MSTR is doing here. And we should get it in a second. All right, let's hide a bunch of the stuff. So we'll only show the markers. So my plan here is to have an indicator that maybe let's make this a little bit easier to see. 5-minute chart. So these purple markers are going to show 2-hour pivots. Let's just hide the 15-minute, 5-minute. So the idea here is that you can pick up on pivots that are happening at VWAP levels. Why aren't you showing? All right, it's like over here. So you have here certain peaks that appear at certain times. I'm trying to use this in order to find perfect dips and rips. That's the goal. That's the goal. But yeah, I'm using RSI divergences and VWAP amongst other things, in order to find my perfect pivots. But it's been a long time search, because it's so easy to find pivots in retrospect, and then sometimes a pivot is part of a trend. So it's like it's not really what we would consider a true pivot. It's just more of a small little dip that's happening, and you don't want to get those. So it can be a chore. We have this message from Emmanuel 175, who says, I have connected a funded next 50K account linked with TradeView, but when I want to place a trade, TradeView says order rejected and writes your maximum order quantity has been met. Please change your quantity. So that sounds like you have either a position that's on already, and so it can add more because there is a max on these prop firm accounts for your position size, or maybe in general the position size you're putting on is too big. So check to see if you're hitting that limit. All right, and the last one here we have, this is the Holy Grail. This has to do with the 20 bar moving average, and the idea here is that when the price hits the 20-day, that is a place to look for reversals or a continuation of whatever trend we're in. So here, the trend is downward, we get a hit, and so it's a short. Here, the trend is upwards, we get a hit on the moving average and move up. Very, very common. We're all very used to that. And Linda Raschke calls this the Holy Grail trade. You have to imagine some of these patterns, 30 years ago, was not as popular as it is right now. And so it might be on the lips of every trader now, but it came from somewhere. All right, let's see if there was an update to our script. Did it add the events? Let's see. Save that. Are there any errors? No. And now let's take a look at the events. If we click on the three dots, click on Pine Logs, now we'll have the logs here for the events that happen. So great. So now we can click on the little target, this little reticle that shows up here, and it'll jump to that location on the chart for when that trade or when that setup happened. Excellent. Now, of course, if I want to set this up as a so that it connects to TradersPost in order to send signals, we can do that as well. So let me say that here. I would like to enable alerts on this script. So let's go ahead and add alert conditions for all the different alerts so that it could work with the TradingView alert system. So we'll do that. Actually, let's see if I created the alerts already. Let's see. No, only bullish and bearish signals. All right, that actually shouldn't take too long. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Oh, I'm McClough is saying that's happening to me at a different prop, the quant size. All right, so I imagine, Cloth, you're not having the issue of having an existing position or asking for a position that's too big. So let me just go ahead and see if people having this problem over on TradersPost. 1 second. But you can always go ask our support chat, and they'll follow up as well. Okay, so this is done here for the PineScript agents. Let's grab the code, paste it in, and we should have our alerts. Make sure there's no errors. I could already see the alerts here. All right, I'm just reaching out to support here. Okay, so we have an error. It says the script has too many plots, 79 when the limit is 64. Let's see what we can do there. Why do we have that many plots in this script? Let's just let AI fix this. Take a screenshot, head over to AI, and have our trusty AI servant solve this for us. In the meantime, we have this. Oh, Mikey Davis says, I think you'll like the volatility contraction pattern quite a bit from Minervini. He's a championship trader. Oh, yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that. Volatility is my favorite vector. I very much like it. Historical volatility, realized volatility, the ratio between the two, different time frames, super, super useful. All right, Mikey Davis says the problem with pivots is I can only catch them after a trend has confirmed. If I'm not trying to program them, I can catch them well before the trend has formed. Curious what your approach is. When I have to deal with a pivot, I'm expecting a pivot to happen when, I mean, this is not for all pivots, but I expect a pivot to happen at a time frame change. So I'll often, like if we just take a quick look at this while we're waiting for that, let's just tack on a level indicator, and let's do that for the 2 hour, let's say. So I'll often find that, let's go to the 2 hour one. 2 hours. I like when it's purple, and let's go down to the 15-minute. Okay, so here at the time frame changes, I'm finding that often it's at time frame changes here, which is these purple bars, that I'll get a pivot. So right over here, pivot, over here, a pivot. Let me go back to extended hours. Here, this pivot is happening at the day close. Again, another pivot here at the time frame change, pivot here at the time frame change of the 2 hour, here at the beginning of the 2 hour, here at the bottom of the 2 hour, and so on and so forth. So generally speaking, I'm looking for pivots at time frame changes. Barring that, I'm looking for topping patterns for candlesticks. So where you have a tall wick and then the body's below, or the opposite. So that's a hammer, or a hammer, and then I'm looking for pivots there. So between those two, I get a lot of pivots. That's my way. Okay, so yes, you're right. I'm the cloth. The issue is a TradingView issue. It looks to be the case. So you might have to reach out to your prop firm account, prop firm provider, to see if they have any information on that. All right. So what was it we were modifying here for the alerts? Let's just make sure the alerts are fine. So now if we go to, oh no, we had an error for the alerts there because the number of plots. So let's go ahead and see if that was fixed. All right, 79 plots versus a 64 limit. Alert conditions are considered as plots. I see. I just added 20 of them, and they're causing the problem. What can we do? So alert condition counts against the 64 plot limit, and the rich markers already eat most of the budget. So 20 alert conditions tipped it to 79. The fix: keep a few combined alerts, alert conditions for the dropdown, and deliver granular per pattern alerts through the alert function instead. That costs 0 plots, and the message already names the exact pattern. Let me read the current file. All right, so I see that as a solution to move away from alert conditions and use the alert. Let's see what it actually turns into. All right, we have the script updated. Let's go ahead and update it here. All right, while we're waiting for that to load, Mikey Davis says, interesting. That makes sense, actually. Every 12 minutes, a 5-minute candle shares a low or a high with an hourly candle. So it makes sense that the volume from both time frames will cause pivots. Yeah, absolutely. And these pivots, they work all the way up. I've done them all the way up to quarterly, and they work pretty nicely. Beyond that, it's very hard to like determine, and then it's also very hard to catch any pivot that's on the 6 month, a year time frame. And then lower, actually, it works on the lower time frames too. I've tried it on 10 seconds, tried it on 1 minute. I see pivots there as well. So 5 minute, 15 minutes, and so on. All right, let's see if we fixed our alert issue. Let's go create an alert, choose our indicator, and now we have bullish, bearish, any pattern. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't like that. Let's not do that. All right, what can we do instead? Actually, any pattern is good. Actually, that'll be fine. And if you guys are interested in turning that into just the patterns you're interested in, you can always use the PineScript agent tool in order to do so. Just head over to your dashboard on TradersPost, click on PineScript agents, grab the GitHub download, and then you too will be able to give the power of PineScript agents to your AI tool. All right, guys. That's going to be it for me today. So much fun to have you guys here. We're going to be back, of course, next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for even more Blueprint. But if you're interested in seeing some of these things in action or where we even get the ideas for them, please feel free to come to Price Action Live every day from Tuesday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we trade live in front of you guys using TradersPost and a bunch of the tools that we create and use daily. Great place to hang out if you're already a great trader and you just want the company. But if you're also learning how to trade, we cover all kinds of great topics. One of my favorite shows to do. We're not going to be here tomorrow because it is Juneteenth, but we will see you next Tuesday morning, bright and early. I want to thank everyone for being here in the chat. Trey, thank you so much for being here. Mikey Davis, thank you so much for being here. Cloth, so glad to see you. Mikey Davis leaves us here with, man, I've never heard of a quarterly time frame. The 5-minute time frame I consider to be a slow time frame. Yeah, quarterly is fantastic when you're dealing with, I find for crypto or currencies, quarterly is super useful. In fact, the way that I determine trends for longer terms, longer term assets like Bitcoin, gold, US dollar is from the monthly to the 3-month time frame. Interest rates also very good at when you're dealing with quarterly time frames. So that's my pitch for that. All right, guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you, as always, happy trading.